Welcome to this week's personal selling. Today I'm happy to welcome Claudia, one of our long-standing partners in the Acuity World. She has been working with satisfaction selling and personal selling for more than 20 years. And today we will ask her to share some of her experiences working with this method and these ideas. So once again, welcome, Claudia, to our studio. And I really look forward to hear some of your angles to why we do what we do and what experience you have had using that. What we see with most salespeople is that they tend to start out by wanting to understand the problem of the client. Why do you think that limits the conversation and the trust in the conversation?
Yeah, it's I think a fast way of putting this, or a simple way of putting it, is that solving a problem, or even solving a lot of problems, it is not necessarily giving you the outcome that you really want.
Okay.
Right, so it does not necessarily bring you to what we like to call the desired state or the desired future. So the most wanted outcome for the organization. So that's one huge limitation.
Yeah.
Mentally starting with the problem and defining things in function of the problem also tends to limit thinking capacity, creativity, because you're focusing on one narrow little thing. And without going too deep into that, what it does to the brain is also that it limits a lot of circuits, a lot of internal communication that you could call neurological communication. That's creativity. And we don't get that, or at least to a far lesser extent, if we're just focusing on problems. So those are at least two of them. I think also when we talk about problems that can create movement, the burning platform and all of that, but what really creates a totally different sense of direction, and with that a different kind of motivation is to focus much more on the outcome, where we want to go.
Yeah. So when you use this with your clients and the people you work with, how would you know that they have actually identified the real desired state, the one which can actually create a real and true pull?
There are so many cues. One of the things that we do when we do this, I was going to say masterfully, is that we, in a way, shift time. So we play with time. And that means specifically that when the leader or the sales professional I'm talking to, when they are truly seeing, and with that also experiencing what it is they want, then, for instance, they tend to talk about it in the present tense, as if those are already happening.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
And typically there's also let's say a more bodily shift, because very often you move specifically from the problem state that is more contracted to a more open state that is where the solution and the desire reside. So a lot of verbal and non-verbal cues you can pick up to ascertain that you're actually talking in that space.
Fantastic. So when can you give me an example of when you have actually applied this and seen the effect? Because sometimes it may be easier to relate to if you can share a specific concrete example.
Yeah. And these are some of the moments that I love most in our work. Well, we see it in the training room quite regularly, and we see it in one-on-one coaching all the time. I was going to say, because that's our job. I think one of the experiences that moved me the most is actually when one of our customers, a key account manager who's learned this in training, came back from a customer meeting where he had applied it with his customer. And let's call him Tom, the key account manager. So he talked about this client situation at the review meeting that we had with him. And I says, okay, so my customer starts with this lab manager and he's really irritated about processes that don't function and people who don't really do what he wants, but are not fast enough. And not enough accuracy in the results, and so there's a lot for him to be fixing, and he becomes frustrated. And Tom was stubborn enough to keep asking about. So when imagine all this is fixed, imagine this is no longer an issue, then what does that look like? What's a perfect day at your lab? And he was persistent enough in working like this, asking like this, and to actually get the lab manager to see what that perfect day looks like or sounds like, and it was so vivid. And this is where Tom actually gets out of the chair and starts showing me what the lab manager showed him. He showed him around the office or the lab, a virtual lab in a way, because it became so alive for him that he was actually walking in the lab while he was having the sales conversation with a customer. And I thought that was just a beautiful example of how vivid this can actually become when you know how to, ask the right questions, and also allow time for the customer to get there, because it's not always easy to imagine what is your wildest dream, what is the perfect day for you, especially not if you're stuck with a lot of issues that need attention. So and of course this changes the conversation between Tom and the customer, and it certainly changes the motivation and also the ease with which the customer now looks at the process to get there.
Yeah.
And that just makes it smooth and effective in a way. And it was a beautiful story, because it was like systemically one path removed from ourselves, and really shows what's possible.
Yeah. So you already mentioned that to do this, sometimes you need to be persistent with the customer.
Yes.
What else, in your experience, have to be really true about a salesperson to be able to do this? Not by accident, but consistently.
So there's an internalization, I was going to say, but and what does that mean? First, you have to know for yourself where it is you're starting. So what are you like when you enter into the conversation? And there, of course, it is you have to be in an open, let's say, an open neurology, in a good place yourself. You have to feel okay with the conversation. Then, of course, there are some techniques, questioning techniques, and there's also definitely a sense of how fast can I move with this customer, so that you're not forcing anything but inviting in. And then it's in a way, a courage to stay with the questions, even if a lot of them could sound strange. But for the person who's in the dialogue and who's already accessing that desired future, it doesn't sound strange. The question actually helps clarify. So those are some of the things that have to be true for the sales professional to go into and actually lead a conversation in that. Of course, they also have to know what they know about the customer, and they also have to be aware about what they don't know yet. So we don't put too many assumptions into the dialogue, because that is always a risk of disturbing the customer and his dream if you put a lot of your own stuff in there. So don't put your product in there.
No. So again, I know that besides doing training and coaching, you also facilitate different groups with leaders. And my guess is, from time to time, you also want and need to understand what they want to get from being a part of these networks. And what do you do in that context to really get that clarity from the members?
I basically use the same process. And I think that's one of the beautiful aesthetic things about it, is that in a way it becomes really simple. Maybe not so easy always, but simple. So when I go into a room, first and foremost, I always make sure that I'm set up right, and that I'm clear about my own intention. So what's my intention in going into this? And that's sometimes an art form, is to leave aside that intention when I go in, so that I can actually pay attention to what they're telling me. Because when I start working with the room to make sure that they are in what we could call an open state, but that they'll be willing to eventually share their dreams with me, and not just the problems. To prepare the ground in a way. I have to understand, so where are they at right now? What kind of gap are we possibly talking about before they're actually ready? So to not rush into questions that are too early for where the group is. But of course also not to spend too much time on, as a useless conversation about issues and problems that are actually not serving the conversation I would like for us to have for my own sake, but of course ultimately for them, so they get most value out of the time we spend together.
So when you sit with a group like that, how do you know for yourself that you can move into the clarity questions about what they want? How do you know that the room is ready for that question?
Again, the short answer, because there's so much data in a room like that, the short answer is to, I make sure to take a pause, take a brief moment to sense into, is anything shifting? And sometimes it's visible. People, I was going to say, relax, sit differently in the chairs, or they send me yes signals, like a smile or changing the postures. It can be the words that they're using that I hear they are not, they're not problem oriented. They're not loaded that way. They're loaded in a more open, opportunity oriented manner. And sometimes it also sits in the silence. Silence sometimes is really where you sense that this is actually, it's not hesitation, it's an opening. And so there are different ways of, and of course I have to, especially with my temperament, to slow myself down sometimes and actually be very present and attentive to what the room's telling me.
So a final question I have on my mind, because again, maybe the viewers out there say, wow, this is all fine and interesting, but where do I start? So if you should give one recommendation to the viewer, what would be the first thing they would like to master to be able to do what you have talked about today?
If we isolate talking about the desired state, it is to, I think, hold two things simultaneously. And that is a real curiosity about what is actually true for the other person right now. To say, okay, I have my suitcase, I have my products, my services, I have something I want to offer, but the real interest here is actually, where's my customer at right now? And from that point, how can I help him or her move in a pace that is okay for them also? And then with that, again, be really stubborn myself in seeing more possibility for them than limitations. So to find, in a way, the shortest ways to get from feeling overwhelmed with issues and what have you, and easing into a more open space. Because once we get there, so many things tend to reorganize themselves anyways. So have an intention of what you want to do when you go into the room, and have the intention of really, truly understanding what the customer wants. And pay attention. So keep yourself, to the extent possible, out of that part of the conversation, to let the desire unfold.
Thank you. So I hope today, having heard Claudia's words, help you understand some of the concept we have been talking about now for many, many weeks. And I think our intention in bringing in not only Claudia, but also some of our other partners, is to put different wordings to it, because I know that again, the more different ways we can describe it, the easier it will be for you to really get it, so that you can apply it in your work with your customers and your colleagues. So hope that you got a little inspiration, maybe a spark, and then see you again next week.